Hey guys, hey, what's up? I'm Mikhail. Subscribe, like, comment, share, turn on notifications. Everyone has had a lovely and graceful day because I've also had a lovely and graceful day. Okay, this is our first time doing this where I'm going to be on camera and show my screen and show a video at the same time. This is our first time doing it, so wish me luck. Okay, today I'm going to be talking about. I'm going back to doing my series on analyzing entertainers series. This series, I analyze entertainers. I analyze old entertainers from Hollywood. At first, I analyzed Josephine Baker, and then I analyzed Dorothy Dandridge, and now I'm going to be analyzing Rita Hayworth. Okay, so let me go on here and find the video. I don't know why my eyes is trying to burn. It's crazy. I do not understand why my eyes is trying to burn. While when I'm trying to make a video, my eyes is trying to burn. Okay, so let me get the video. We're going to analyze the autobiography and the life story of Rita Hayworth. She was a good dancer. She danced in movies with Fred Astaire. She was a very good dancer. She started dancing at an early age. Okay, so let me go ahead and find this video. Okay, let me set this right here. Let me go look and find this video. I don't know why my eyes trying to burn while I'm trying to do a video. For some reason, I love the old entertainers. I love analyzing the old entertainers. I like to watch the old movies, and I like reading and watching the autobiographies of old entertainers. I guess I'm old soul because I like this stuff. I'm old soul. Okay, so let's get started and let's get into it. Let's get into pictures. Let's get to the life of Rita Hayworth.
For her fans, Rita Hayworth was Gilda, a woman who was bold and brash, openly sexual.
Sure, I'm decent.
To her family and friends, she was simply a loving and kind woman whose soft-spoken demeanor belied an inner strength and courage. I just was in awe of my mother. I just looked up to her. I admired her and her beauty and her charm and her grace and her sincerity and her truthfulness. She was an amazing lady.
I think that the publicity is always on the Rita Hayworth of Gilda, this incredibly beautiful woman. I think that's part of the myth. I think that the studios were insisting on keeping up images. They would try to correlate the image that was on the screen with what was happening in life. And many times there was a conflict between the two.
Put the blame on me. Name did a dance called the Hitchy Crew. That's the thing that slew my groove. Put the blame on me, boys. Put the blame on me.
Rita Hayworth is a name that was once notable to millions of movie fans all over the world. Yet she ended her life in a state of confusion. Rita spent years suffering the effects of an unknown illness, an affliction called Alzheimer's disease. Her twilight years were spent in helplessness and uncertainty, a poignant ending to an accomplished and glorious life. She was trapped in a disease where all that she had known became lost in a foggy haze. Margarita Carmen Cancino was born on October 17, 1918 in New York to parents Volga and Eduardo Cancino. Rita's father hailed from a famous dancing family in Spain, and Margarita took great pride in her Spanish heritage.
My father was born in Seville, Spain. My grandfather and my father were Spanish, all Spanish.
She longed to be like her Aunt Elisa, her mentor and her father's partner in the dancing Cancinos. In 1926, the Cancino clan moved to Hollywood, where career opportunities awaited. While her brothers, Eduardo Jr. and Vernon, went to school, Margarita was being trained in the art of dance.
I had been studying dancing since I was 5.
Okay, so her father was Spanish, and he came from a dancing family. And Rita took after her father's side. Her father's side were dancers. So Rita took the talent of being a dancer. She took interest in dancing, and she took the talent of dancing. Okay? And she got 2 brothers, and she's the only girl, and her real name is Margarita.
5, 6, 7 years old, 8, and I could dance, and I danced with my father. I had a fine teacher.
Eduardo taught classes, and Rita was in those classes too. She went to his classes, which her brothers would do. They goofed off and fooled around on the top of the building with their wooden swords. And there were a lot of people in those classes, and she was the star of the show, of course, because she was the best dancer he had.
At the tender age of 13, Margarita would become the family breadwinner. Eventually, Margarita replaced her Aunt Elisa as her father's dance partner in the dancing Cancinos.
There was depression at that time. So when we needed money, I worked with my father at the age of 13 at a place in Tijuana. My mother was there. My 2 brothers were with me. I did 4 shows a day, 2 in the afternoon and 2 in the evening. And in between the shows, I went to my tutor and had my lessons. Our next job was working on a gambling boat called the Rex out of Long Beach. It was kind of a gambling boat. It was a terrible thing.
On stage, Margarita came alive. She was graceful and powerful, in control. Off stage, she remained quiet, withdrawn, painfully shy. Margarita was lonely, and her innate shyness prevented her from seeking out friends or other outlets to...
Okay, so on stage, she came alive. She loved dancing so much that on stage, she came out of her shell. But off stage, she was lonely, shy, withdrawn, and could not make friends. She was lonely and so sad. And those qualities is similar to me. When I heard those qualities about her, it reminded myself of me, because I mean, I like to recite poetry, and I like to sing. So when I'm on stage, I come alive. On stage, on stage, I'm not shy at all. On stage, I'm very outgoing, and I love to perform and show my talent. But off stage, I'm just like Rita. Off stage, I'm shy, I'm quiet, I'm withdrawn, I'm aloof, I'm standoffish. Yeah, yeah. Off stage and behind closed doors in privacy, I'm those things. And I'm lonely and sad a lot of times. So, and I don't have friends. Even from a little girl on up, even from a little child on up, I never made friends. I was always a loner, introvert, and stayed off to myself. I was never good at making friends. And to this day, I don't have no friends. I'm always alone. I'm always by myself. I'm a lone wolf. So to this day, I'm still I'm still kind of I'm still kind of I'm still kind of quiet, shy, and I don't make friends. So me and Rita had that in common, and I think that's what drew me to her story. Us having those same qualities in common. That's what drew me to her life story. Okay, so let's get back into it. Let's continue.
Set her cloistered lifestyle. She only opened up to her mother Volga. Margarita was kept close by her father's side, allowing her very little freedom. But Margarita had a chance to earn money a new way, in motion pictures. Rita would later remember these years as some of the most stifling and difficult of her life. Yet the fact that her talent and efforts enabled her family to survive the Depression was a source of great pride for her. In time, little Margarita Cancino would earn the title as the undisputed goddess of Hollywood. But she would look back on her youth with a tinge of bitterness. They had me dancing almost as soon as I could walk. I didn't have a choice, she would later say.
I was so very busy learning dances and studying. I did miss playing with children my age and all that. But I didn't know that I missed it till after a little while.
Okay, so her father made her start dancing at an early age. She had no childhood, so she had a bitterness. She had a bitterness because she had no childhood. She could not go outside. She could not go outside and play like other children. She had to practice and dance. And I read to her that her father was very strict on her, and if she would mess up and make a mistake, he would yell at her and tell her that she had to get it perfect and be perfect. So her father was very strict on her. And I also read to her that her father was sexually molesting her. So I put all this together. No, no childhood. You could not go outside and play and be normal like children, dancing and practicing and rehearsing every day and for long hours. And the father strict on her. She had to be perfect and get all the dance steps down pat. If she didn't, her father would yell at her and, and sexually molested her. So That's sort of reasons of why she was shy and withdrawn and sad off the camera. That's why she was like that. I'm gonna speed this up. I'm gonna speed this up.
Fox Studio chief Daryl Zanuck also decided to cancel Margarita's contract, leaving her with no studio backing. But Judson had a plan. She lived in an empty home with no furniture, while Judson invested all monies earned by Rita into the publicity and promotion of her career. Rita landed roles in various B pictures, and while she was slowly shedding her fear of the movie cameras, Judson was controlling the money.
He was a pretty domineering factor in her life. He was there all the time and pushing all the time, as her father did before him. I guess she had a father who was as persistent as Judson was, and Rita at that point was kind of a meek little girl in my eyes.
Overcoming her shyness, Rita began to appear at nightclubs and Hollywood events in order to be photographed for the magazines and newspapers.
You didn't look at anybody else when she was on board. One time she come out in a red, this here burned in my memory, a red dress, red shoes, and man, what a knockout.
Okay, so during this time, she had married an older man named Judson. This older man was very controlling and domineering over her, and he treated her like a child. I read they once told her that she can't do nothing for. I read, yeah, something like, I'm paraphrasing, not saying, I can't remember and quote it exactly, so I'm paraphrasing. But one time, he told her that she couldn't do nothing for herself. He treated her like a child. He belittled her. He belittled her and made her feel like she was dumb, stupid, that she was not a businesswoman, intelligent, that she could not handle her own business and make the right decisions and be in charge of herself. He just made her feel like she had the mind of a child and could not take care of herself.
I mean, when she walked in the casino, the only thing you could hear was the little balls in the roulette table clicking away. She didn't really stay very long. It was a publicity stunt, of course. You couldn't help but notice her. I mean, you got 1,000 people out there and you looked right there.
42.
I'm not
In
gonna play
order
the
to
whole.
keep Ed Judson
I'm not gonna play
from
the whole
revealing
thing.
what he considered to be scandalous and
I'm gonna
damaging
be
information
skipping.
about Rita's personal life,
I'm gonna
Harry
be skipping
Cohn
some
paid him
parts.
$30,000 to stay out of her life forever.
I can't play the whole thing.
For the first time, Rita was happy in love and able to breathe freely and experience life.
Okay, I'm catch up. Are there? Because I read her story. I read her autobiography before, and she was also dating actor Victor Mature. And I read that her manager, he paid off Victor Mature to break up with Rita and leave her alone. So Hollywood has always been shady. Hollywood has always been a mess. Even back in the day, for 1920s, 1930s, 40s, even with the old entertainers, they controlled their lives. It was the same OBS. A lot of old actresses had to sleep to get ahead. Yeah. A lot of them had to sleep around to get ahead. It's the same OBS. The same mess that's going on now is the same mess back then.
On her own terms. 1943 proved to be one of her happiest years as she embarked on the Technicolor production of CoverGirl.
That is one of my favorites. It was pleasure doing. It was exciting. I was working with marvelous people. Gene Kelly choreographed that movie. We danced together. It was just fantastic.
Upon seeing Rita's famous pinup, controversial filmmaker Orson Welles had boasted, "I'm going to marry that girl." Welles was a gregarious genius whose impressive reputation made his pursuit of Rita all the more flattering to her. He was pursuing Rita with a vigor too tempting for her to ignore. In letters to her, he wrote, "I suppose most of us are lonely in this big world, but we must fall tremendously in love to find it out. You are my life, my very life. I am too blue for anything but the sonorous repetition of my love for you." Before long, Victor Mature was a forgotten man. The coupling of Rita Hayworth and Orson Welles made headlines all over the world. They were dubbed Beauty and the Brain, but Rita didn't care. They were married on September 7, 1943, in a quick civil ceremony. There was no lengthy honeymoon. In fact, the ceremony had taken place during the shooting of CoverGirl.
I was working in publicity at Columbia Pictures. One day I was having lunch. I was sitting on a bench outside of the photo studio on the lot, and suddenly Rita and Orson Welles came rushing out. They were holding hands, giggling and laughing like children. They got in the car, and as the car started, the fender barely touched the bench I was on. I was almost thrown off, and Rita stuck her head out of the window and said, "Sorry, but we're on our way to get married," and off they went.
With CoverGirl, Rita's stardom was at its peak. The film was a huge box office success, and it's...
Okay, so Rita married Orson Welles. He was a writer, actor, producer, a director. He did a whole lot of stuff. But she married Orson Welles, and they had one daughter together. Their daughter's name is Rebecca Wells. She was happy with Orson for a while. She found some happiness with Orson for a while. But you know, eventually things happen in marriages, and marriages don't last. Some people start acting up, they start falling apart. So some marriages just don't last.
cemented her status in the often fickle film industry. Ironically, at this stage in her life, stardom meant very little to Rita.
Once she became a star,
I read that Orson Welles, he started staying away. He started running around cheating on Rita, and he started staying away, and Rita got tired of it. They said Orson Welles felt like Rita was needy, and he got tired of her. But your husband, she's supposed to be needy. She's supposed to be needy for you. You're supposed to show your love and affection and be there for her. I think it was a cop out about she was needy. I think he said that as a cop out. As a cop out because he was just falling. He was slowly falling out of love with her and just wanted to cheat with other women and do his thing. He just wanted out of the marriage.
I don't think she looked forward to that position with great glee. And she'd just as soon leave it But the pressures that were put upon her to get her to that position was horrendous. Orson manipulated her. Everybody seemed to manipulate her.
Studio chief Harry Cohn was angry over her marriage to Orson Welles.
It's sad. First, her first husband manipulated her, and then Orson Welles also manipulated her. Everyone was taking advantage of her because she was just such this easy woman. She was so easygoing and sweet and nice and kind of pitiful in a sense of way that everyone just took advantage of her and just walked over her.
He was furious when he found out that at the peak of her stardom, she was expecting her first child. Rebecca Wells was born on December 17th, 1944.
Rebecca
Rita's
Wells,
happiness seemed
Rita
complete
and Olsen's
until the untimely death of her mother, Volga. Rita would never be quite the same.
Okay, so her mother's now dead.
Both of her brothers, Vernon and Eduardo Cancino Jr., were soldiers overseas. When Vernon returned from the war during the Christmas of 1944, Rita flew to New York for a happy reunion. She seemed to want very simple things: love, family, security, and yet they were eluding her. Her marriage to Orson Welles was slowly eroding. She had begun to lose faith in Orson, whose exhaustive schedule left Rita and baby Rebecca alone most of the time. She was heartbroken to find out about his liaisons with other women. Rita separated from Orson Welles in 1945, during which time she was also shooting Gilda, the movie that would forever immortalize her on the screen. Gilda would become a film noir classic.
Okay, I gotta speed this up some.
Hotel about 5 or 6 in the
her
morning.
Orson Welles divorce.
Standing,
like
waiting
I said,
at the
I told
elevator.
he started
Elevator
cheating.
opens, and it's Orson, the cameraman, and the crew going to work, and we're standing there, just getting in.
Orson started cheating, is always busy, working, leaving Rita and their daughter alone all the time. So she got fed up and tired of it and divorced him. She got rid of him. She kicked him to the curb.
Work now became a welcome relief for Rita, and she dove into production on Loves of Carmen. Her portrayal of a free-spirited gypsy allowed audiences a glimpse of the real Rita, who with castanets in hand became lost in a world of music and dance. When production ended, Rita decided to take a trip to Europe to relax and recuperate after an emotional and difficult year. But quiet calm was not the result of her vacation. While there, she met the renowned and fabulously wealthy Prince Ali Khan. The prince was, in Rita's own words, magical. She said, "We danced, and we danced, and we danced. I like to think we never stopped." Unfortunately, they were both still legally married to others. When both of their divorces were final, and the way became clear for them to marry, Margarita prepared herself to become a princess. It was grander than any Hollywood fairy tale. Rita left Hollywood at the peak of her career, and she dropped everything in order to find love.
Okay, so Rita has now married a prince. She thinks she has found love again, and she has married a prince, and now her and this prince is going to have a daughter together. Rita has 2 daughters. Her and this prince, they have a daughter together, and she thinks that she's found love this time. She was just a woman searching for love. All she wanted was love and happiness. But she kept getting hurt. Every time she thought she found love, it did not work out, and she would just get hurt all over again. Like a lot of us women struggle and go through. A lot of us women, we just want to be loved. But a lot of times we tend to get hurt over and over again, and it just don't work out.
And happiness.
She wrote me a lovely long letter, and she said she was not sorry to leave her career. She thought she'd be married to Ali Khan for the rest of her life.
She left Hollywood and left her career to be with this prince, because she thought he was her prince charming, her knight in shining armor. So she left Hollywood to be with this prince, because in her mind, he a prince and she a princess. So she thought she's living this fairy tale life and would finally get true happiness.
Lived where he lived. And he lived in the south of France, he lived in Paris, he lived in London, and he lived in Ireland. It was all part of his life, and I became a part of it. I was always with Ali when he visited his people in different places. I couldn't work and be his wife. I made up my mind what I thought I should do, and that's what I did. I stopped working. He was a very vivacious man.
A life of royalty did not quite fit Rita's longing for privacy. Ali engaged in an active social life, a situation that made Rita terribly uncomfortable.
Rita was very soft-spoken, actually, and very easygoing. She loved to just put on some old clothes and just sit around and chew the fat. She was a very down-to-earth person. She wasn't put on or anything. Ali Khan loved parties. He lived for parties. He lived for beautiful women. He lived for gambling. He lived for drinking. He lived for all the things that he was so known for. He was a playboy. Knowing Rita, she would want some time at home, but she wouldn't have gotten that from him.
He was magical to her. He loved her. She loved him. They had totally different lives, had come from totally different backgrounds. It just wasn't her personality type.
This prince, he was social. He liked being around people. And Rita was a homebody, shy, so Rita wasn't comfortable being in the public eye because she's easygoing, soft-spoken, and shy. So she was not comfortable being in the public eye. So they're from two different backgrounds, and they had two different personalities. Rita did not want to be in the front. Rita was a person that liked staying behind the scenes. Like me, I like to stay behind the scenes. I don't like being in the public eye. I do what I gotta do, and I'm gone. I'm out. So me and Rita have a lot of similar characteristics and similar traits.
This was a person who needed...
Our similar characteristics and traits is what's drawn me to her story.
To spend more time alone, she was overwhelmed by crowds of people. Rita's innate shyness made constant social events a painful drain on her. She had difficulty with the French language.
Let's speed this up.
Ignoring the advice of her friends, Rita married Dick Haymes in 1953.
Okay, so her and Prince divorced. Her and Prince had one daughter, a daughter named Yasmin. You all saw her on video talking. So now she married another man. Her friends warned her, don't marry this man, but she didn't listen. Once again, searching and longing for love, that she just did not listen.
He was wanted by the IRS and being threatened with deportation to Argentina. Later on, Rita claimed that she married him to help him with his troubles and to keep him from being deported. Also, Hames appeared to be a devoted father to her children. She was unaware of the serious threat that he would be to her life. To attract ticket buyers, Dick Hames always liked to have Rita on the road with him when he toured, but he was seen to both verbally and physically abuse her in public. On one occasion, he put her relationship with her children in jeopardy. While Rita was on tour with Hames, Rebecca and Yasmin stayed with his mother. Unbeknownst to Rita, the children were left alone, and the situation was reported to the Social Services Department. Rita was charged with neglect, a situation that left her devastated and frightened. Rita had not made a film in 2 years, and she had no income. In order to pay for court costs and other legal fees incurred by Hames, she was forced to sell her share of her production company. Both Orson Welles and Ali Khan came to the court to speak out in her defense, and the charges were soon dropped, but the damage had been done.
Hames really manipulated her to all sorts of unpleasant situations. I witnessed all of these, and it bothered me too, because I was so friendly with her. I guess I was the only one that really didn't want anything from her. We just had fun while she was married to these fellows. I think that's why we had such a nice relationship. She began to realize that everyone was having dinner on her.
As with most difficult times in Rita's life, she eventually...
Once again, she married the wrong man. His mother was supposed to be watching the children, but the children was left at home alone. And social services was called, and she almost lost custody of her children. But Orson Welles and someone in Ali Khan came and spoke up for her. That was bad publicity because she was a Hollywood actress and dancer. So almost losing your children, that's bad publicity. And this man was abusive. He abused her mentally and physically. So once again, she married the wrong man. She was attracted to the wrong man. Rita once quoted and said that she once quoted and said that she's nice, but she's attracted to mean personalities. Yeah, her quote, it was something like that. But she's a nice person, but she's attracted to mean personalities, which happens because I've got fooled by guys sometimes, and I've been attracted to a mean personality or personalities sometimes. It happens to us all, so I can relate to her with that quote.
Truly realized that it was time to disengage and make a fresh start once again. She filed for divorce from Hames in 1955 and took control of her life, her children, and her career. Rita longed to portray...
She divorced another man and tried to get restarted back into her Hollywood career.
Serious characters and dramatic parts that suited her age. She had been off the screen for 4 years and was ready for her second comeback. It happened very naturally from the love goddess to...
No, you had to have your conquest, your unconditional surrender. And if you could do it by lying and cheating so much...
Off the screen for 4 years. I mean, that's a good while being off screen and from making movies. But I'm glad that she divorced her husband, Dick Hames, whatever his name was. I'm glad that she divorced him and took back control of her life. And she got her children more in a stable setting, a stable home, environment. I'm glad that she did that.
Right. I knew you were going to get married, and I should have said so from the beginning, but I still have some pride left.
Pride. Yes. I can see the makeup now, all right? The lines that weren't there before. The beginning. There'll be more and more, and then one day this face will begin to decay, and there'll be nothing left to make a man grovel, to make him want to...
Why don't you?
Much of what you are feeling, seeing those scenes, came from Rita herself, independent of any suggestions from the director.
During the production of Separate Tables, Rita married producer James Hill in February of 1958.
She married
She was
another
once again
man.
attempting to attain a happy
She's
and
still on a
peaceful home
quest
life.
to find
Rita was hoping to share quiet times
true
and spend
love.
time learning to paint. However, Hill was consumed with his company and the many dramatic roles he had planned for Rita. Once again, she felt used.
Everybody used her. And last March, the Haynes, he used her. Everyone was eating off of her. Everyone just used her. And again, this time she married another loser. And she found out that this time he was using her also as well. She found out that this husband was also using her as well. She was still on a quest, trying to find true love, trying to find her true soulmate.
Rita still had hopes that she and Hill might take time to rest and live a normal life. He had other plans, however. In 1958, James Hill convinced Rita to play the only female lead in an all-male ensemble cast in They Came
Speed this up.
Early. During the years that she was ill and she suffered with alcoholism.
Rita was an alcoholic, and I read that she would get so drunk that she would go into a violent rage. She would go into a bad rage and become very violent. And one time, I read that one time she chased some people out of the house with a knife. Yeah, I read that one time she chased some people out the house with a knife in her hand because she's alcoholic, but she had Alzheimer's, and they didn't know. Back then, they didn't know much about the illness of Alzheimer's. As though she was an alcoholic, but she was an alcoholic, and she caught memory loss from Alzheimer's. She was losing her memory, having memory loss from Alzheimer's. But there wasn't but back on Rita time, they didn't know much about Alzheimer's. They thought she was an alcoholic, but she was an alcoholic, and she had Alzheimer's.
And then this Alzheimer's slowly creeping in. The alcohol exacerbated the Alzheimer's, and it just grew into this huge illness. She's just...
The alcoholism made the Alzheimer's much worse.
Slowly was losing her mind.
In 1961, Rita challenged herself by attempting to appear on Broadway in the production of Step on a Crack. However, her disease was now beginning to affect her professionally, and she was horrified to find that she could not memorize her dialogue.
Rita had a hard time remembering lines, and she said, "Annie, will you help me with the script? Can you throw lines to me?" And we worked about a week, and then she went to New York and got out there on the stage in front of all these people and had a terrible time remembering the lines. It was disappointing, and they didn't take her.
She was in touch with her dad then. She was calling him every day from New York. She was saying, "Oh, Daddy, I can't remember my lines." And she'd cry. He said to her, "Never mind, Margarita, never mind. You've had a fine career. You don't have to apologize to anybody."
So I said, "Well, no, I don't want to do it." No, I stayed for 5 days.
Her Alzheimer's disease was so bad that it was affecting her with her remembering her lines. I mean, as an actress, you got to remember your lines, but this Alzheimer's disease was affecting her so negatively. It affected her that she was not remembering her lines. But father cheered up and told her that she had a very long, great career. And he told her that she had nothing to prove. So I'm glad that her father cheered her up and made her feel better. In spite of her decline due to her Alzheimer's disease, I'm glad that her father still reminded her about all of her accomplishments in her past movies and made her feel better. Her father reminded her about her great and good career. So I'm glad that her father encouraged her. He nourished her and made her feel more better. He nourished her as a father should nourish their child. He nourished her as a father should aid their child.
I went to the show every night, and I said, "Wow, that's a tough one. I cannot open by July this first, and that was it."
You don't know what it's like on the stage when you forget a line. You're absolutely in another world. You're mystified that this thing has missed. The tape has run dry.
Rita drank heavily to ease the frustration she felt. She could no longer maintain her professionalism, which was of the utmost importance to her and had been since she was a child. Her father and teacher Eduardo Cancino passed away in 1968. He died before he could watch his daughter Margarita lose her memory entirely. Rita continued to look for work throughout the 1960s and 70s. As always, her career provided solace for her.
When I saw Rita, I flashed back to her sitting on the bed in the Life magazine photo, seeing her dance in the movies. But I thought, that's Rita Hayworth. She seemed lonely and shy. And I felt, I don't know why she's shy and unhappy. She was a private person. I felt her being isolated. She'd do her work on the set, but then wander off. You didn't know where she was.
After hearing that she needed cue cards to remember lines of dialogue, film producers were reluctant to hire Rita. She found some reprieve on television.
You've got to do this film. It's perfect for you.
No, Bernie, it's wrong. I just don't think the public wants to see me as a brain surgeon.
Rita, I'm telling you, the public will eat it up.
They're just not going to believe it.
Yes, they will.
They won't.
It's got social comments.
It's too talky.
They're rewriting.
It'll never work.
Yes, it will.
No, it won't.
It's a great part.
It's not for me.
It's not for her. Yeah.
Her last film was The Wrath of God, released in 1972. It was finally time for Rita to quit the movies. Rita's behavior became utterly unpredictable. Her family and friends never knew when to expect an outrageous outburst.
Around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, her mood would change. Just for no reason. Just change. Angry. We just thought she was drinking. We were going to Aunt Rita's house for my birthday. I just prayed to God. I said, God, just give me one thing. I don't want anything else. Just don't let Aunt Rita get drunk.
In March 1974, both of her brothers, Vernon and Eduardo Jr., died within a week of each other. She paid for but could not bring herself to attend the funerals.
It's so sad. It's so sad. Memory loss. That she severe memory loss. That she needed cue cards on set. So, you know, a lot of producers and directors, they stopped hiring her. They didn't want her no more. Her father died, and both her brothers died within a week of each other. And she was still drinking and making her Alzheimer's get worse. The drinking was making her Alzheimer's get worse. So, like the family said, they never knew when she would do a sudden outburst. They didn't know when she would do a sudden, crazy outburst.
Rita spent most of the 1970s touring the world, making personal appearances, but becoming more impaired every day. In 1976, Rita's problems became public knowledge. On a flight to London, she became disoriented and out of control.
We were sitting there, and all of a sudden, she just pushed all the dishes and silverware, everything, just slid her arm across the table and knocked it on the floor. The flight attendants came running upstairs, and you could see that Rita was just uncontrollable. She just looked dazed for some reason, like almost a blackout. And I sat with Rita the rest of the night and I just held her. I think one of the stewardess tipped off the press, and 2 photographers got to the bottom of the stairs as I started to help Rita down with the captain, and they took several of those most horrendous photos that, as we all know, went around the world the next day in about 2 minutes.
Rita returned to Hollywood, and although she knew she had a problem, she refused help from anyone. Finally, in a Los Angeles hospital, Rita was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Suddenly, years of erratic behavior began to make sense to her friends and family.
I knew that she was not well, and there was nothing that I could do at the time. I could just watch her just slowly sink. I'd got the call that she was in hospital, and I came back and took charge. It was the time to take charge, but before that, there was no time. I wasn't able to do that. Nobody could.
It was a sad, sad ending to my situation with her. She was at the Hoag Memorial Hospital. Apparently she wasn't recognizing people. I sat in the room with her, and her eyes had that distant look. You know, she was just off someplace. And I'd bring up some of the situations that we were involved in and what we did and the laughs we had. And then suddenly she'd come out of it, and this wonderful face would blossom, and the recognition of, you know, looking back to the good times. And she was a little girl again.
Rita Hayworth spent her last days bedridden, unable to speak, walk, or function by herself. Most of the time, her eyes were closed. For someone who had loved the freedom of dance and expression and the joy of family and friends, her debilitating disease was heartbreaking.
She moved with such grace and beauty, and she was just so warm and loving. She was like a gentle bird.
Rita Hayworth died in New York of Alzheimer's disease on May 14, 1987, at the age of 68. Although she left behind a wonderful legacy, Rita never achieved what meant most to her, the security of lasting love. She seemed to have spent much of her life escaping the manipulation of men, the trappings of fame, and in the end, the prison of her own mind. Upon reflection, Rita once commented, "When I look back on my marriages or breakups, sure, I know the pain I went through, but that's part of life, and it has its own value." To the press, she asked, "Whatever you write about me, don't make it."
Okay, so that is it. That's the end of the story of Rita Hayworth. She died of Alzheimer's in May of 1987. So sad. All she wanted was to be loved. One of her quotes, I think, she also dated actor Kirk Douglas. Her and Kirk Douglas dated, and Kirk Douglas said that he saw something in Rita that he could not change. He said that he saw loneliness and sadness in Rita, and Rita was going to bring him down, so he had to get away from her. He had to leave her. So Rita said that all men fell in love with her character Gilda. Her movie Gilda. She said all men fell in love with her character Gilda. But they all woke up with her. Because all she wanted was love, but she could not achieve it. And her problem started in childhood because I heard her father, he sexually molested her, made her dance and practice all the time. She had no childhood. He made her practice and dance hard all the time. If she messed up, he would yell, scream, and fuss at her and tell her that she cannot make mistakes and she got to be perfect. And I also heard that her father would gamble. He would drink and gamble of the money because Rita and her father, they were dance partners. They would dance at different clubs and make money. But her father would drink and gamble of the money. And then he would tell Rita to go fishing, bring some fish back for dinner for the family. And if Rita did not bring back no fish, he would beat her with his fists. But he beat her lightly with his fists, so people would not notice and see no marks or no bruises on her. So her problems started in her childhood, and it started from the abuse, the sexual abuse, the mental abuse, the physical abuse, and the emotional abuse from her father. And she carried that into her adulthood, and it made her shy. It made her be shy, quiet, and withdrawn. It made her be just off to herself in a shell in her own little world. And the men used her and manipulated her. So it made it worse. Men using and manipulating her. That made it so much worse. Yeah, so that's the story. It said that a beautiful goddess, a beautiful Hollywood goddess like her was so glamorous on set and was a great dancer, danced so good on set, had grace elegance on set, but off screen she was shy, lonely, sad, and never achieved. She never achieved true love and true happiness from a man. She never met her Prince Charming and her knight in shining armor. And she never achieved that in marriage with no man. Okay, so on my next series, I'm going to talk about the old Hollywood actress Greta Garbo. Yeah, Greta Gabor or Greta Garbo. She's the next Hollywood actress life that I'm going to watch, analyze, and break down. If you enjoy this series of me analyzing old Hollywood entertainers, if you all like it, then let me know in the comments down below. Okay, so I'm the cow. Subscribe, like, comment, share, turn on notifications. I appreciate all the love, support, and I will see you all in my next video. Enjoy the rest of your lovely and graceful day, because I'm going to enjoy the rest of my lovely and graceful day. Bye, chosen ones. Bye. I love you all. One love.